you and have an understanding to discuss your differences, and then maybe you can come with that middle of the road, because the liberals and the Republicans aren't doing that right now, but we as people can. But we've got to talk to people, and right now we're too busy blocking and deleting people on Facebook that don't agree with us.
And I haven't done that. Someone's asking a question though. Daniel Scarrett in Everett, Massachusetts says, share with us your thoughts. Share with us your take, actually, on bias, systematic racism, and the privilege picking. You're just picking your brain, he says. I can tell that you both are awesome guys.
Well, first off, I don't believe in the term white privilege. Let me make that very clear. I understand where it comes from. Let me say that I know where the term white where it comes from, but I don't believe in it. Okay. As far as where I stand on social injustice and racism, do I believe it happens? Absolutely. But I also want to explain why I say that. It's obvious. We've seen it in everyday life. I mean, I know for a fact I've seen a black man go into a store and people follow him. Why? Because he's black. You know it. I know it. So we know that happens. So I'm not disagreeing with that. But as far as a white privilege, I personally, I'm an old hillbilly. I come from a small town called Turcock Mountain, Virginia, and I had to bust my ass for everything I have, and there was no privilege. Nobody handed me anything. I had to work, and I had to work hard for everything I've got. So I don't believe in white privilege, but yes, there's absolutely racial injustices that happen on a regular basis here in the United States, and that needs to be addressed. And I think we're doing that now. I just think we need to do it in a professional manner and not by looting and tearing shit apart.
Right, I agree, but I'll tell you, I agree with what you said.
Susie, did you hear your song?
But I do disagree with the white privilege statement you just made. I believe there's white privilege. I'll give you an example of it. Well, I know many times, and I haven't given you the example yet. Many times, I remember as a young banker in Boston, and also a young wholesaler wholesaling securities for big companies like Sun Life of Canada, MFS, Vantage Securities, Evergreen Funds, working at Bank of America. I would come in an elevator and you'd see women crunch their pocketbook. I'm in a three-piece suit, by the way. That's not white privilege. But let me tell you what the white privilege is. I remember I used to work for this company called Bankers Life. And I was a trainer, a unit field trainer. And there were people who would come in and I would try to teach them something. I was the expert on annuities and certain other things, and because I used to wholesale them. And certain people would go to someone who's white to help them. And that same white manager would say, you need to go to H. H. Terrence, by the way, that's me. You need to go to H so he can train you. Because the funny thing is whether you believe something exists or not doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Okay, but let me, that's not privilege. That may be stereotypical, but it's not privilege. Well, see, that's like the term racism. People will throw the word racism around a lot. If you looked at me and you said, Steve, you're white, you have no rhythm. That does not make you racist. People go, oh, that's a racist statement. No, it's not. It's a stereotypical statement.
I agree.
But if I said, Terrence, you can't swim because you're black, everybody's going to say, oh, that's a racist statement. No, it's not. It's stereotypical. Racist is true hate. And that's the way I feel about the term white privilege. White privilege is, to me, a racist term toward white people. Nothing was given to me. Nothing was handed to me. I had to work for what I have. The term privilege to me means you've been handed or given something. Now, we can go all the way back if you want. We can go back to if someone said, okay, Steve, we're going to give you this 30,000 acres because you're white. Now, that would be privilege because somebody gave it to me, right? If I was allowed to have a Miss White America, that would be privileged.
Well, Steve, I'll tell you this. You can disagree, and that's okay. I'm not upset with you. I can't be. We're boys. Well, there is white privilege. There is white privilege. You don't have to, you can take it at racist if you want to, and that's certainly your right, and I can respect that. But there is something called white privilege. It happens. It's prevalent. There is a basketball player. His name is Kyle Korver. He plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. He used to play for the Utah Jazz, and he used to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron. He didn't win a championship yet. He's in his 17th year. I think he went to Creighton University. And he penned a very good piece. You can Google it, sometime, on white privilege.
Somebody post the definition of the word privilege for me.
And therefore, what a lot of white folks refuse to acknowledge is that in America, we're talking about North America, the United States of America, it's a predominantly white country, and there are things that you're going to get because you're white. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. Bank of America just, I believe, correct, I think it's $1 billion they put aside for what's going on right now. But Steve, you go through any banks. Do you know what the term redlining is? Redlining is literally taking a red marker. I'm making this up for a certain community. Going to Churchill in Richmond and putting a line around Churchill. And you systematically keep people out from getting loans for it. But I'm making this up again, Monument Avenue of Richmond, they can get loans. A loan should be determined by someone's ability to pay, their credit rating, and not the color of their skin. So you don't have to believe it, you don't have to agree with me, but there has been white privilege. It's prevalent. It's been there for a long time. It's going to continue, just like racism will continue. But the funny thing is this. A lot of people, I frankly don't give a damn if you get upset that you consider it racist. And I mean that respectfully, as you get my point. So what I'm saying to you is that you can not believe it, but it exists, my brother. And what I'm saying to you is this. There is something that you and I agree with. I agree to disagree about, for example, remember affirmative action?
I was going there. I'm getting ready to go there.
I was always, even as a young man in Boston growing up, I was against affirmative action. Let me tell you why. Because affirmative action benefited the white female. Because the white female was considered a minority in business. My point I'm trying to say to you is, even at the last company I worked for almost 10 years, I always put my merits up against my not competitors, my colleagues who were white. And I'm saying to you, I can tell you, if I want to compete against you based on my knowledge, my upbringing, my training, my schooling, I don't want you to hand me a job because I'm black. I don't want it.
Okay, but don't you feel like that's black privilege to have affirmative action?
But what I'm saying to you is, do the research. It benefited the white female, and I was against it.
But you're saying it didn't benefit the black male.
No. I'm not saying that.
Okay, so wouldn't that be black privilege?
It was a way to hold on.
Is it not a form of? I'm asking you simple. Is it not a form of black privilege?
No, because the persons who were making the rules were not black. It was. They made it a law so that. Remember we had a discussion.
Okay,
hold on. Remember we had a discussion a few weeks ago. Let's say when you came out of the military, you wanted to be a fireman, right?
Right.
And you scored, I don't know, I'm making it up, 100.
Mm-hmm.
And I scored 90 or 85. Right. But because they want to diversify,
and they gave you 25 points,
and because they wanted to diversify the fire department, they said, I'm going to give it to Terrence. I was against that because I believe.
Okay, but you can be against it, but it doesn't change the fact that
it happened.
There was a black privilege.
Right. So what I'm saying to you is, man, my pride will not allow me. My intelligence and my pride will not allow me to accept. So you're giving me something because you think I'm black. No, I'm not that man.
Okay, but they don't tell you.
But there are some people. But I'm saying to you, but there are some people who benefited from it, black, white, Hispanic, whatever. What I'm saying to you is, but overall, if you do the research, it'll tell you and it will show you that affirmative action benefited the Caucasian female, but I was against affirmative, even up to today. Let me tell you.
You keep saying Caucasian female. Are you saying that it did not help black males?
Of course it did.
Okay.
I love that.
Okay.
Of course it did. But I'm telling you, the majority of the people who benefit from it were Caucasian females. So, but I will say to you personally, a lot of black people were for it. I wasn't. I was against it personally, because maybe I'm cocky, and maybe I'm not braggadocious, but bombastic, and I'm confident. Let me tell you something. I can keep my own on 3 topics.
But see,
sports, business, and religion.
Right. But my point is,
4, and politics.
My point is, if whites have any privilege, then you cannot deny that affirmative action was a black privilege. You can't say that whites have something this way and it's privilege, but blacks had this way and it was not.
No, because
it's a very similar situation.
It was made a law because you couldn't get a job.
You're right. You're right. Hold on. You're right. It was made a law. It was made a law.
Why?
There's no law that they got to hire a white man, but there was a law that they had to hire a black man.
Because black people were not getting the opportunities they deserve, Steve. Let me tell you a quick story.
Hold on. Did it not benefit?
Yes, it did, but what I'm saying
then
to
that
you
is a form of privilege.
No, it's not, because it's a form of making sure
this is fun.
No, to making sure that the system is recognizing everyone. I don't believe you can't. Hold on. You cannot convince me. No, hold on.
Then why were you so against it?
Hold on.
If it wasn't a privilege, why were you so against it?
I was so. Let me take my voice down. I know I get, and I'm not mad, folks. I'm not mad at Steve. I get excited. That's how I talk. I was against it because I felt my intelligence is what governs me. However, I wasn't foolish. I knew, even though I think I may have been more intelligent about something at the time, I could still be held back. But they had to make a law to make sure that you don't discriminate on people because they call this kid. Let me tell you something. This is a personal story. I have a son who's 31 years old. And there is something called the blue baby syndrome. The blue baby syndrome is that, blood. He had a heart defect. We found it at 2 weeks old, and there he had 2 procedures done: an arterial switch and a shunt procedure. 2 major surgeries cost millions of dollars. But back in the day, in the 80s, you had Blue Cross Blue Shield Master Health Plus, and it cost us nothing. I was a young banker then at Bank of America. The funny thing is this. There was a movie, I can't remember the name of the movie, but Mos Def played in it. He's a rapper, he played in it. And the guy who came up with all of the rules and all of the research for the blue baby syndrome was a black man at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. But back in the day, in the 40s or whatever it was, in the 50s, black men could not, they could not get the recognition what they deserve. So my point I'm trying to make to you is, because of situations like those, you're trying to tell me a guy has a master's degree and he has to be a cotton picking janitor? But some guy, because, his father owns the bank, he hardly could graduate from college, he quit because he could do it. He gets the big job. Steve, it happened. We don't have to agree on it. We could respectfully disagree. It happened. But I'll tell you what, I will say kindly, I disagreed. I am not a fan of affirmative action, but I understand why they did it, and I understand how it benefits some people. Some people got their breaks because of affirmative action, and it's not because they were dumb, it's because they were systematically keeping minorities back.
Yes, John Service, that's one of the things I'm talking about with the affirmative action, actually. Yeah, he was just talking about a fire department situation there.
No, that's true. But I was against that.
Right.
But listen, right now, the commissioner of police in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, where I grew up, is Willie Gross. Willie Gross and I went to middle school and high school together. And Boston had never had a police chief, a commissioner of police that was black. Now, there's 3 commissioners from the city of Boston that all went to the same high school, that we all went to, Boston Tech, which was an examination school. So the elite of Boston went to high school there. But because I was originally from the Caribbean, that's where I'm from, I came up here and I had a chip on my shoulder and I thought I was, listen, I'm coming from a country that's, our own country. But I was still considered, I was made fun of by African Americans because of the way I spoke, the way I looked. And That didn't bother me.
I make fun of him for the way he
Yeah,
looks.
exactly. That didn't bother me because, man, I was so bombastic and confident that I was like, I don't care.